The following program is a Town of Colonie television production of the William K. Sanford Town Library.
It goes all my life's a circle, sunrise and sundown. The moon rolls through the nighttime till the daybreak comes around. And all my life's a circle, but I can't tell you why. Seasons spinning round again, the years keep rolling by.
Sure. So this story is called Mudra Shastra, the language of science. Once upon a time, a long time ago, there lived a great king. And during this king's rule, India went into a time of great prosperity and wealth. New cities were built, trade flourished, and all of the people were happy. All, except one merchant who faced a rather large problem. Every day I go out into the market and what do I see? People from the north, the south, the east, the west. How am I to possibly communicate with them? One is speaking this, another is speaking that. Then there are dialects, vernacular. I cannot understand anything. I know. I will create a language of signs so everyone can communicate with me. Yes! And so, there he had it. He had his first sign. And he went on to write many, many books on this. And he became the top scholar, the leading pundit of this new language of signs, which he called Mudra Shastra. Now, once he had become such a great scholar, he decided to travel to the king's court so he too would be known all throughout India, and so he would have a high reputation. And so one day he marched into the king's palace and said, "Hey king, come. I have come here to debate you." Now, I know what you're thinking. A debate? I can do that. No. This is not any ordinary debate though. Here are the books that I've written on this new language that I call Mudra Shastra, the language of science. Take these books, brush up on them, and I'll be back in 1 week or so to debate you. And with that, he left. Now the king didn't know who this man was or what these books were on, but he knew that if someone challenged him, he wouldn't back down. And so he had a meeting with all of his ministers and his advisors to ask them and to find one person who would participate in the debate because, of course, the king didn't know this new language. And so, after hours and hours of debating, one brilliant man stood up and said, "King, relax. I know what to do. Why don't we, take the books and throw them out the window? We're going to lose anyways. Just give up." Give up? No. Giving up is not an option. Think about what would happen if we give up. Everything that we have worked for to achieve such a high reputation will be lost. Everyone will lose their faith in us. Giving up is not an option. And so they continued to discuss more and more ideas, and soon they had a solid plan. The king sent all of his guards throughout the country to find one person who was willing to participate in the debate. And if this person won, well, the king would give him a large sack of coins because he would raise the reputation of the king and his kingdom. And so, 1 day went by, 2 days went by, 3 whole days went by, and not a single person wanted to participate because everyone knew that if they lost, they would be ridiculed. And so, slowly the week came to the end. And finally the guards, they had no option. They had to ask anyone now. And so finally, on the last day, the guards asked one man that they saw on the street, but he was dressed in ragged clothes, and his hair was all frazzled, and he appeared to be blind in one eye. And when the guards asked him, he said, "You want me to do what? A debate? 500 gold coins? Where do I sign?" And so they had a man who would participate. And so they brought him back to the king's court. And that night they taught him the new language of signs. And the next morning they dressed him in lavish clothes with nice big spectacles, because he was blind in one eye. And so soon the day came, and the merchant, the pundit, the scholar, he walked in. "Hey king, are you ready for our debate? Come. Look, I brought the media with us, all the reporters, so that when I win, everyone will know about it." "You did what?" No. I won't be debating you today, don't worry. I have selected the smartest, the most clever man in all of India. In all of my advisors have chosen him too, to debate you. And out walked the farmer. Except he didn't look like a farmer. He was dressed in lavish clothes with those nice glasses. And so he came out, and the two men, they looked at each other, and the debate commenced. Being the guest, the pundit decided to go first. True. And with that, the merchant bowed at his feet and he fled. What just happened? I mean, he was a brilliant scholar, and he came in and he just ran off. So the king had to know what happened. He sent his guards out to figure out and find the merchant and ask him, what happened? And so once the guards caught up to him, the pundit, the merchant, he said, "There's so much pollen in the air, yeah. Let me calm down and clean my eyes." And once he had settled down, he said, "I got in there thinking that I was going to win. I raised one finger, signifying that there is one God, and He is all around us. But that brilliant man, that genius, he raised two fingers, signifying that God is around us and within us." Okay, now at this point I had to think a little bit, because that was a fairly good argument. And I raised three fingers, signifying that God is around us, within us, and in our soul. But then that genius, he raised his fist, signifying that God is not all these divided forms. He is one unified and powerful being. And with this logic, I knew I had lost, and I paid my respects and dashed off. And so the guards, they brought this message back to the king. And now the king was also shocked that this farmer had won. So he asked him, "How did you win the debate?" And the farmer said, "Oh, no, I know all this tricky business. Give me my 500 gold coins first, then I will talk." And so he got his payment first, and he counted each and every coin. And then he explained to the king, "Now, king, do not get angry at me, or worse, steal my money, my precious. But that man, he was a coward, and he was insulting me the whole time. He came in here, and he raised one finger, making fun of my one blind eye. I said, 'Who do you think you are?' So I raised two fingers, signifying that my one blind eye is better than both your eyes." But then he wouldn't stop. He raised three fingers, signifying that between us there are only three eyeballs. I said, "Dude, continue talking, I'll punch you in the nose." And so he bowed at my feet and he dashed off. And so the king learned that day the power of silence, and how through eternal silence comes eternal knowledge. Thank you.
Actually, I've got a short story that's again both historical and out of my personal realm. One of the things that Gay and I are involved with is an exchange between Schenectady and our sister city in the Netherlands, and we just finished hosting 15 folks from the Netherlands in September, and we were there a year ago for the second time as part of the exchange, and these exchanges are wonderful in that you get to know people. So you have a personal relationship with a town that is a very important part of our history, since Nijkerk is the town that Schenectady's founder came from, Aaron van Curler, and his uncle was Kilian van Rensselaer, who was one of the founders of the Dutch West India Trading Company, a diamond merchant, and he owned most of upstate New York at one point in time, because van Curler was his manager of his colony. So we've been going back and forth, and when you read history, when you study history, you get some of the story, but sometimes you need a little bit more than that. And when you visit a place, you get a sense of the people and the situation. Now, one of our fellow Schenectady Nijkerkers is named Van Calhoun, and his mother was a Van Tassel, and they had a farm, and actually Van now lives back on the farm in Chatham in Columbia County. And he lives on land that his ancestors got as a grant for fighting in the Revolution. So that's the history, the connection there. And when the Nijkerkers were here the last time, he hosted a party at the farm. And one of the leaders of the Nijkerk Exchange got to talking about his family, the Van Tassels. And he said, well, you know about Van Tassel Island. And he says, well, that's where they're from. And Tassel was a place where people, it's known for its fair wind and its fresh water. And I heard this in passing, but it just went by me. History sometimes just goes by you. So we're on our way to Nijkerk, and we arrive, and there's a big potluck supper, and everybody's running around. And our host was Yudhisthira Shagert, who was the part of the conversation about Tassel Island, and he's a sailor. He was a single-handed Nostar racer who actually was the first person to get to this country to start the exchange 25 years ago. And he comes up to where Van and his wife Sue are sitting, and he places a pile of paper. And he says, this is the history of the Van Tassel family on Tassel Island. And I think it would be fun if we all went there together on Saturday. And it was in English. And he had done some research. And so we don't know where we're going. So Saturday comes and we get in the car and we start to drive across Holland with the big super windmills making electricity. And we get to the end of the water and we get on a ferry and we go out to a barrier island that is Tassel Island. It's one of those barrier islands. And as we get off the ferry and we get to the little village, we get out of the car and I'm about to lose my hat. And I begin to get some sense of what fair wind is. So I make a comment to that, and who says to me, he says, oh no, but let's look which way the wind is blowing. Well, it's blowing right out of the west. Uh-huh. So here's the story of the whole Dutch advance in the world, internationally and through trade. When you sailed out of Amsterdam Harbor, out of the Rhine River, or out of the Zuider Zee, you sailed right into a headwind. And what you then did was you parked your boat, your ship, behind an island, behind Tassel Island, and you waited for the wind to shift just enough so that you could sail with a little bit of the wind on your quarter, rather than having to beat that heavy boat all the way out. Now, it could take weeks for the wind to shift. So the fair wind you're waiting for required more fresh water, because if you were sailing between there and the New World or Indonesia, you needed to top off your water tanks and your provisions. So the Texel Islanders got rich selling water and provisions to the West India men while they were waiting for the wind to change. Now, isn't that something? When you read the history of the Dutch exploration and all their establishment of New Amsterdam and Jakarta and places around the world, you would never think that to actually start the trip, they sailed into a headwind and they had to wait for the fair wind and the fresh water of a little sandy spit of land that sticks out into the North Sea. So history lives in many different ways in the very winds that curl our hair and take our hats off our head. And the next time you're listening to the wind blow in the trees, be remembered of the stories that are traveling by you, just like that. A fair wind, fresh water, story of going to Texel Island.
And it's called Arjuna and the Bird's Eye. Once, long ago in India, there lived another king, and this king had 5 sons. Now the eldest of these sons, his name was Yudhisthira, and being the eldest, Yudhisthira took charge of the brothers, and he was their sole leader. He was also the smartest of the brothers, or so he thought. The second oldest son, his name was Bhima. Now Bhima was very, very strong, and he would go out and work out every day. But other than that, he could eat and cook a little, but that's it. The middle son, the third oldest son, his name was Arjuna. And Arjuna was very focused and concentrated, and whenever he was given a task, he would achieve it to his fullest extent. The last 2 sons, they were actually twins. And the one that was born slightly before, his name was Nakula. And Nakula was the 4th oldest son. And he was very well dressed. He would always come in dressed elegantly, and he was very stylish. And the youngest son, the 5th oldest brother, the youngest one, his name was Sahadev. And Sahadev, well, he was very clever, and he would always, well, maybe a little too clever, because he would always find like random facts and observations that no one else thought of. These are the 5 brothers. And the ancient custom in India is when boys reach, the age of about 10 years of age, they're sent off to a guru or a teacher to learn. And being the sons of this magnificent king, they were sent off to the finest teacher in all of India. And this teacher's name was Dronacharya. Now Drona, as everyone called him because his name was way too long, was a great teacher and an even better archer. But there was only one flaw. He would get very, very, very angry if anyone made a mistake. So you had to remember to always be on his good side. So Drona took these students in, and he taught them everything he knew. He started from meditation so they could calm their minds and be focused on the task at hand. Then he moved on to teaching them how to go into the forest, select the right wood to carve and make a nice bow and the nice arrows out of, then how to string the bow, and finally, how to fire. And so, one day, after all of his sessions were done, he was meditating under a large banyan tree, which had many vines that sunk into the ground, and where they sunk in, luscious green grass grew, and it was the only tree in the nice big fields, and it was a really calm and peaceful sight. And he was sitting there, meditating, when a thought popped into his head. Every day, I go out and teach my students, but what are they actually learning? That Bhima, he always plays with the grass. I can never understand if he's paying attention or not. How do I figure out if they're actually learning? And so he invented a test. This is where we get tests from. I know what to do. I will take an examination. And so he got up and he told the students, hey, my pupils, come close, come close. Tomorrow I will take your exam and I will be testing you on everything that I have taught you up to this point. So remember, get a good night's sleep and come early in the morning for the test, because I'll be telling your father about the results. So you all better do well. And with that, he went off and he went back to his meditation. The brothers, they heeded his advice. They got a good night's sleep. And the next morning, they woke up before the sun rose so that they could meditate and be calm and ready and peaceful for the exam. And while they were meditating, Yudhisthira, the first oldest son, also the leader of the brothers, he thought he heard something in the distance, so he slowly opened his eyes and he looked, and there it was Drona. He was calling them for the exam. And so Yudhisthira got up and said, hey brothers, come. I have devised a clever plan so that we will all get 100% on this exam. I will go first, of course, and I'll get 100 because, it's just a test. And then you can all copy me so that Drona will tell our father how wonderful we are, and he'll send us presents. Oh, this is such a good plan. Come. And so they walked over to Drona, and when they finally got there, Drona said, now look, Yudhisthira, I'm glad you're first in line. Now come. In this banyan tree, I have placed a small wooden bird right there. I want you to take my bow and this arrow and shoot the bird. Shoot the bird? What an easy task. He took the bow and the arrow and he aimed. And right before he fired, Drona asked him one question. Wait, before you fire, I want you to tell me what you see right now. What I see? Could this exam get any easier? I see the tree, the banyan tree that has vines that are sinking into the ground. There's also grass everywhere. I see you, Drona. I see you standing in front of me. What? You have failed. Go think about what you have done wrong. What just happened? The plan had failed. Now, the next brother in line, Bhima, who, I'll remind you, was very strong and big, was quivering in fear because their plan had failed. What could he do? How could he pass? And so when Drona asked him what he saw, Bhima began to look for a way to impress Drona. And so he thought, and finally he ran over to the banyan tree and broke off some vines and said, Drona, look, I can lift almost half a tree. What? Bhima, this is not a lifting competition. You have not learned anything that I have taught you. You too have failed. What? The two oldest brothers had just failed the exam, and 3 remained. And so the next person in line was Nakula. And as you remember, Nakula was very stylishly dressed. And so when he got up to Drona, he had a plan. He said, now Drona, I know you, and based on your body type, you would be perfect in this dress, in this suit. Take my suit and wear it. And because I gave you this token of our friendship, why don't you just tell my father that I got 100% on this exam and everything will be good. I'll keep giving you nice clothes as time goes by. Trying to bribe your teacher? No. You too have failed. But leave the suit, I'll keep the suit. And so the next brother in line was Sahadev. And so when Sahadev got there, he knew the answer. He was going to tell Drona what he saw in the tree. But there was this thought that was plaguing his mind, but he dismissed it, and he was going to tell Drona what he saw, but it came back. And he said, Drona, Lean in. Pluck. Look, it's a white hair. You're getting old. Insulting your teacher. No, 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 no. You too have failed. And so, only one student was left, Arjuna. And when Arjuna got there, he was not at all nervous. He was focused on the task. But Drona had lost faith because all the other brothers had done something stupid. And so when Drona asked him, Arjuna calmly replied, "O great Drona, all I see is the eye of the small wooden bird that you have placed in the banyan tree." Now Drona was impressed. He said, "Good job, Arjuna. But your task is not over. Of course not. Take this bow and the arrow and shoot the bird." And again, Arjuna was calm. He took the bow and the arrow and he aimed. And he fired, and that arrow hit the dead center of the bird's eye. And now Drona was impressed. He said, "Good job, Arjuna. Now, call the other brothers over and let me calm down, because that was some ridiculous stuff that just went down. So, when I calm down, have them come by, and then I'll explain to them." So once he calmed down, all the brothers gathered and he explained to them, "Now, I want you all to learn from this, especially you, Bhima. When you are focused and concentrated, like Arjuna, you can achieve absolutely anything you want. Arjuna was only concentrated on the task I gave him, and because of that, he was able to hit the bird. Now, I want you all to learn from this." And so, they did all learn from this. And later on in their life, they used this lesson and were very, very successful. Thank you.
It goes all my life's a circle, sunrise and sundown. The moon rolls through the nighttime till the daybreak comes around. And all my life's a circle, but I can't tell you why. Seasons